Hello, my beautiful cuddlebugs. Welcome to Ramblings of a Book Dragon, where we dive into the warmth of good books and unravel stories that feel like a literary hug. I'm Allie, your host, and I'm thrilled to embark on another cozy adventure with you. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, snuggle into your cozy reading nook, and let's begin. But before we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so that you won't miss a single podcast episode. I really value your feedback and book recommendations. Now let's begin with today's episode. This past weekend, I finally finished up the K-Drama Goblin, or Guardian, the Lonely and Great God, and I have thoughts that I needed to talk about, and why not share them here in my own little void. The drama follows a man named Kim Shin who originally lived 900 years ago. He was a great general to the king, and unfortunately, he had become way too powerful, according to the king. The king was jealous of the people's love and wanted to kill him, and he was killed by his own second-in-command on his orders. This is all happening in like the first 10 minutes, so this really isn't very spoilery, I think anyway. This may contain spoilers though, so heads up. His second-in-command used his own great sword and stabbed him through, and he was buried like this because the king wanted everyone to know what happens if you try to become too powerful. But before even this all happened, he was forced to watch his family get killed, which included his sister, the king's wife. The king has been very jealous, and you see this throughout the show. Later on in the show, we get a bit more of a deeper dive into what was going on with the sister and the king and how he's jealous. It's all very dramatic and not good for this. But before this point, everyone was showing just how much they loved him, and so God decided in his infinite wisdom that he was going to live. He brought him back with his sword still inside of him, and this was an important thing because the only person who could remove this sword was the goblin's bride. And we even see Kim Shin try multiple times to try to remove the sword himself, to no avail. Nothing works. So the only person that can do this is the goblin's bride, and at which time he would finally find peace. Now, in this lore, a goblin is a godlike creature, godlike man who can control the weather, see people's future, move things around, and help people live. He also gets gold. 19 years ago, Kim Shin saved a woman who was hit in a car accident and was dying. She had prayed for someone to save her, and the goblin heard and granted her prayer. Little did he know that because he had saved this woman and her unborn baby, Jian Tak, he basically created his own goblin bride. She can see and communicate with the dead. And this is all... She was told that there's this old woman who told her, hey, if you're in a situation, pray. Maybe some lonely god will listen and hear. It's all very important. 19 years later, she's a high school senior and runs into Kim Shin, and he's surprised that not only she can see him, but she can also follow him because he has the ability to travel to other locations as well by going through a door. And everything becomes a wee bit complicated with all this because not only he hears her prayer on her birthday, and she finds out that she can summon him because on her birthday she has these candles. She's in an abusive relationship with her aunt and her family because her mother died, and so she had to go live with her aunt and her family, and they're it's not a good situation. So she prays on her birthday to get a boyfriend, get a job, and earn some money and just find love and happiness. And then she blows out the candles. And I guess she's never blown out candles before because this is the first time this has happened, and they're all super duper confused on what is going on. And so he's basically able to help her with these requests, but because he's able to get her a job at a chicken restaurant, he gets her out of the abusive home, and she winds up living with him. And things become even more complicated because in this world there are also the Grim Reapers, and the Grim Reaper that they need to find a place to live. So they never really go into how this happened because at this point, 19 years later, Kim Shin is working on finding a new life for himself because he has to do this every once in a while, and he has his manservant who's basically been following him from life to life to life ever since they first met eons ago and 900 years ago. And so he's starting to get this all set up for him that he's supposed to leave Korea and go somewhere else. And so because of this, his helper's grandson, who was also seen as with his past life, he's got this all arranged to where, oh, someone else will live in the house until he comes back later on at some point in time. He didn't know that he had basically invited a Grim Reaper into his house. And because of him meeting Jeon Tuck, he decides to stay, which makes it all the more entertaining for us because they have to live together and they really go from enemies to bromance, which is really cute and funny because they're doing things to each other, and it's all very amusing and funny. And that's one of the things that I really like about the show, is that there is the really serious aspects of the show, and then there's also plenty of that humor, which I think they do really, really well. And it all becomes even more complicated because we don't know this right now, so spoilers moving ahead, but it turns out that the Grim Reaper, we find out information about how everyone is connected, from the owner of the chicken restaurant to the Grim Reaper, and how God was kind of arranging all this to happen. And I have a few I gave this show a 9.5 out of 10 because it ripped my heart out in the last 3 episodes. So just a warning, if you're going to watch this show, the last 3 episodes are super rough. Like the show is only 16 episodes long, and each episode is like an hour and a half. So there's a lot that happens throughout the course of this show, but there is just so much that happens for the good and the bad. But I have a couple of things that I didn't quite like about it, that there were some inconsistencies, at least to me they seem like inconsistencies. I don't know. But someone who is supposed to die, he's supposed to die, and there's all this drama regarding this ghost who was actually connected to the past, and that's how they figure everything out, because he's being a troublemaker. And so Kim Shin realizes that he's supposed to be the one that is actually supposed to kill him. And this is a major spoiler for what happens near the end part of the whole heart being torn out thing that I didn't like. I'm still not exactly sure of how they were trying to do this. Like, I know what they're supposed to do, but I'm still kind of mad about it because at one point, Jeon Tuck creates a contract saying that at the beginning of the first snow, the first fall, blah, 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 he's supposed to come to her. And because of this contract that she makes and they both sign, this makes him stay in this world in between. And I know what I understand what they were supposed to be doing with this, but I think it would have been nicer if instead of making him continue to live, he just was able to find that peace. And yes, it completely broke everyone, especially Jeon Tuck, because she after he dies and disappears, everyone forgets about him, except for a few people, but that's beside the point. And so she has this heartache, and this is like in the last 3 episodes. And she has this heartache, but she has no idea what was going on. And it was just such a painful episode to watch, because it was just like, we know what's going on and everything, and it just I didn't like how they did that. And it just was progressively just continuing to tear your heart out and rip it into shreds and then put it back together. But then it all becomes better at the very end. Like, they do wrap things up quite nicely. I do give them major props for that, because as much as I hate the way that the direction that they went with it, I felt that they did a good job there. So yes, like I think it is one of the better shows out there, because they do wrap up of everything really well. There's some things that I didn't quite like about it, but for the most part, it was good. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll just have your heart ripped out into 1,000,001 pieces, and just everything is just so so good and just makes my heart go pitter patter, especially with two of the side characters that they were just so perfect for each other, and there's just all this drama, and then you're just like, give them some happiness, please. And it doesn't happen until the very end, naturally. But that's beside the whole point. It's just such a really fun show, and I highly recommend it if you're wanting to get into K-dramas. And if this is something that you like and want to continue to see more of, please let me know. I'm more than happy to continue to discuss other Korean dramas and Chinese dramas. I'm actually wanting to do a compare and contrast for these two Chinese dramas that are both from the same time period with the same emperor, but it's from two different perspectives, and I really want to go into that details of what I liked and disliked about both shows, because one show goes into it really seriously and it's very dramatic, but the other one I'm learning about myself with what I like with these types of shows. I like the second one more, and I'll go into more detail about that in the future, but the second one has more humor. Like, it's not super funny all the time. They're not trying too hard with that. It's just some bits that are just really cute and really funny, and I liked the way that they were portraying the emperor in this show. Like, there is drama, there is heartache, there is all of the backstabby fun of a harem drama that we all know and love so dearly, but it's not so heavy all the time. Like, that's the thing I don't like. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's something to discuss at a later episode. But I just wanted to again give a shout out to this drama. If you're, you can watch it on Viki.com, or you can also find it. I'm sure you can find it in other places, but I watched it on Viki. I think it's one of the free shows too. But it's just so well, beautifully made in that everything is just done so well, I think, other than the things that I was complaining about before, of course. But yeah, it just was such a good show. Thank you so much. A big thank you to all you beautiful cuddlebugs for joining me on this literary escapade. Until next time, keep snuggling with those books and spreading the cozy vibes. Happy reading, my lovely cuddlebugs, and I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye!